Hey guys, let's talk again. The topic I want to talk about today is how we used to see adults as kids. Like when we were children, I would say before the age of 12, 13, the way we saw adults was very different to how we feel about ourselves as adults when we grow up, right? So, when I was a kid, I would be very confused and puzzled when I saw adults like struggling with their problems and just like staying stuck where they are because whenever I saw adults, I thought they were like the epitome of freedom. Like we as humans have free will, right? And the only difference between children and adults is now that the adults have freedom and they can do whatever they want, and there's nothing stopping them because the only thing that can stop you is being a child, right? Having to need like adult supervision and stuff. So once you're at an age where you no longer need adult supervision, then you should just be free to do whatever you want and act on your free will however you want, right? So I was truly puzzled when I saw adults just like struggling because I didn't have the fears that adults had as a kid. The only thing I was scared of was like hurting myself in the playground or during gymnastics because I had like trust issues with my body, and I was scared of like losing my parents when we were outside, especially like losing my mom at the supermarket. So those were like the only fears I had, and like maybe sharks, but I never went to the ocean, so it's fine. So as a kid, when you don't have the fears that adults have normally, right? Like social anxiety, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of rejection, fear of, I don't know, fear of abandonment, fear of judgment. Like, you don't have those as a kid, at least to the extent that you have them as an adult, right? Even if you do have those fears, they're minimal. You're not really aware of them, and the desires you have as a child don't really clash with those fears. So you're more easily able to act on those desires as a kid. You don't have to think about playing in the playground. You don't have to think about drawing or painting or jumping around, right? You don't have to. There isn't any fear preventing you from playing imaginary stuff with your toys, right? So, as a kid, it's hard to fathom why adults aren't using their freedom the way they want to because you're not aware of those fears. And because you're not aware of those fears as a kid, all problems are simple to solve. There is no such thing as a complex solution to a complex problem. So, because fear isn't getting in the way, and there's this childhood simplicity involved, you're not really considering all the complexities of a situation. It's way simpler to solve problems as a kid. If you give a kid a problem, that kid is going to find the simplest and most obvious answer and solution to that problem, right? And as we get older, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately, I guess, mostly fortunately, our prefrontal cortex develops as we grow older, right? So, because we start solving more and more complex problems at school, because we read more complex topics and, use our brain in more complex ways, our prefrontal cortex develops. So once we become adults, we're trained and developed to search for complex problems and to solve them in more complex ways. And because of that, we kind of overlook simple and obvious solutions to our problems. So we're going around with our problems thinking that because our problems are so difficult to deal with, because we struggle so much with our problems and we're unable to solve them, that these problems must have the most complex and difficult solutions. Because how can we struggle so much? How can we be stuck with these same problems for months or years and not be able to get over them if they're so simple, right? If they're so obvious to solve. So we kind of overestimate how complex our problems are, and we end up overestimating the solution. We think the solution must be some difficult, complex thing because we're struggling so much. So that's the only valid conclusion, right? So it's funny, as adults, we've finally developed our prefrontal cortex. We have critical thinking skills, we have problem solving skills that should be much better compared to when we were kids. But ironically, we're struggling with the same problems for years without being able to solve them or get over them. And like, why? Why do we overcomplicate these problems and overcomplicate the solution to these problems when it's not that complex of a problem? It's not like you're trying to solve climate change. It's just a personal problem you have that has a simple solution, but because you're struggling so much, you think the solution has to be complex, it has to be difficult, when that's not the case. We've trained ourselves to overlook the forest for the trees. We've developed a more complex worldview when sometimes you just need to look at the simplest and most obvious solutions. So, how can we apply this in our adult lives? Well, I think we've all heard of the inner child healing meditations, right? Where you meditate and you imagine like your inner child, and you imagine hugging the inner child and, you know, parenting the inner child, giving the child what it needs, saying it's everything is going to be okay, and just loving the child. And that's all fine, and that's great. We should do that. But when it comes to our everyday lives and solving the biggest problems that keep us stuck, we should meditate on what our inner child would say to those problems. We need to meditate on what our inner child would say is the solution to that problem. We have so many dreams and desires as kids as to what we want to do once we become adults, right? But once we're adults, we're too scared of this and that, and we have so many excuses as to why we can't do something. And that becomes a big problem. And you really have to remember what you were like as a kid. And that might be hard for some people who don't have many memories of them as a child. But do your best, I guess, to remember what your perspective was like and what your approach was like as a child. So if I were to sit down with my child self and tell my child self the problems that I had before this content creation journey started, I would be telling my child self, like, look, I'm stuck being miserable. I have all these desires. I want to do content creation. I want to travel. I want to be financially free so that I can do whatever I want. I want to retire my parents. I just want to create content, and I want to inspire people and help people. But I just can't because, I'm so distracted with everyday chores and tasks, and I wake up late and I sleep late. If I told all my problems to my child self would be like, well, the solution is simple. You just have to sleep early, wake up early and start doing content creation. Just start filming videos. What's the big deal? Like, it doesn't take much to solve this problem. If going to sleep late and waking up late is a problem, the solution is simple. Go to sleep earlier. Go get into bed earlier so you go to sleep earlier so you can wake up earlier. Don't look at your phone at night when you're in bed. Just go to sleep earlier, wake up earlier. It's simple. If the problem is content creation, if you can't do content creation, what's stopping you from doing content creation? I can come up with all kinds of excuses. Well, I'm scared of judgment. I'm scared of failing. I'm scared of succeeding. I'm scared that people are going to see me and perceive me and judge me. I'm scared that, I won't come across the way I want to. I'm scared it's going to be a lot of hard work, and, there's a bunch of reasons why I'm stuck, right? Why I can't solve this problem. What would my child self say to all these reasons as to why I can't solve this problem of not doing the things I want to do? Let me just meditate on that. I had this big thing as a kid. I don't know where I got it from. Whenever a classmate or friend said, "I can't do this," I would be so angry at them. Like, what do you mean you can't do this? If you say you can't, that means you don't believe in yourself. You have to say I can, because if you say I can, that means you believe in yourself and you allow yourself to actually do that thing. So, as a kid, whenever I heard I can't, I would correct them and say you can. Say that you can because you need to have that confidence to actually give yourself the possibility of doing it. So if I told my child self why I can't do something, my child self would be so angry at me. Like, what do you mean you can't? You have to change I can't to I can. And give yourself the permission and possibility to achieve the thing you want to do. So it's simple. You have to change I can't to I can, and say that over and over again. I can create content. I can film a video. So just do it. I can physically film a video, so I can do it. Sometimes it's that simple. When it comes to fears, what would your child self say as a solution to getting over your fears? You can't get rid of your fears, but how would your child self answer when you say, I can't because I'm afraid of blah blah blah, right? The child self would probably say something simple like, start small. Practice. Practice makes perfect. You can do it. So don't worry about doing something perfect right away. You didn't start drawing perfectly when you were a kid. You just drew and drew and drew because it was fun, and over the years you improved without realizing it. That was the case for me. So if you enjoy doing something, it doesn't matter how it turns out. Let's say you want to play basketball, right? But you have all these fears surrounding basketball. Like, I'm afraid of looking bad while I play basketball. I'm afraid of losing the ball. I'm afraid of not dribbling correctly. I'm afraid of not catching the ball when someone passes it to me. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of losing a game of basketball. I'm afraid of winning a game of basketball because now there's so many, expectations put on me. Sounds weird, doesn't it? The obvious answer would be start small. You can play basketball. If you want to play basketball, The only thing you should focus on is enjoying playing basketball. It doesn't matter if you're perfect or not. You can't be perfect when you start playing basketball for the very first time. You're not going to dribble correctly, maybe. Maybe you need to practice dribbling first. You have to start small, and you have to practice, and you have to enjoy yourself without trying to be perfect. You shouldn't expect to be NBA level good, right? You shouldn't expect to be professional basketball player level good at basketball. You just want to play basketball. So just play. You can play, right? So the solution is simple and obvious most times to most of our problems that we face and just can't get over for some reason. So, as adults, right, most of our problems actually have very simple and obvious solutions. But we overlook those solutions as like trivial things, like trivial changes that won't really solve our problems. When those are the actual things that will solve the majority of our problems. But I think we underestimate the compounding effect of trivial changes. We underestimate the long term effects of implementing trivial, simple changes in our lives. So we just don't do those changes. We just don't implement those trivial solutions, right? For example, like if you want to get into shape, if you want to be stronger and, you know, get rid of excess fat and slim down, the solution is very simple and obvious. Have a good sleep schedule where you sleep early and you sleep for at least 8-9 hours. Drink water, eat healthy, eat less sugar, eat more complex carbs, vegetables, protein, right? Reduce processed foods, and move, exercise. The solution is that simple. But, like, those changes seem like trivial changes, and we make up excuses as to why we don't implement those changes. For example, for me, I eat pretty healthy, and I go on walks almost every day. And I like to sleep, so I sleep at least 9 hours, even if I sleep late. And yeah, I have a sweet tooth, but like, compared to others, I don't eat a lot. My my appetite's not that great, actually. So whenever I eat food, it's not like I eat a lot. I eat less than average, honestly. The average person has a bigger appetite than I do. So when I look at my situation, I don't see what's causing me to be overweight, because technically people that have my lifestyle should be skinny. People who have worse lifestyles are in better shape than I am. So, like, right? So I don't get why I'm overweight, and I don't get why I'm not losing that extra weight. And I kind of overlook the trivial changes that I have to do, the simple and obvious solutions that I have to implement to solve this problem, because they don't seem like big changes. They don't seem like a good enough solution. It's not complex enough for some reason. But if I just moved a little bit more and ate a little bit less sugar and ate a little bit more protein, maybe that would solve my problem over time, right? Maybe if I just like jumped rope for 5 minutes and like worked on my muscles a little bit more, because walking doesn't train your muscles, it doesn't strengthen your muscles. So, and I don't have any muscles. So maybe if I trained my muscles and strengthened my muscles with like body weight exercises, simple exercises, squats, clamshells. I've started to do that, by the way. I've started to exercise three times a week. So I haven't seen the effects of it yet, but the trivial changes I've made will compound over time, and hopefully I will see a difference in my body composition. So, yeah, there are small changes I need to make to change my body composition, and it's not some mysterious complex problem to solve. I think we also try to make problems more complex than they are in an effort to avoid solving them, in an effort to avoid acting on the solution. Solving the problem means stepping into unknown territory, right? So maybe we're just overestimating the difficulty of our problems just to avoid solving them, to avoid having to live in uncertainty and live in the unknown, because at least we know our problems, at least we know how to live with our problems, but we don't know how to live without our problems. We don't know how to live after we have solved the problem. So that's something to think about. Maybe you just need to have a talk with the child version of yourself and ask your child self how they would solve the problems that you currently have that you're stuck on. And once you listen to their answer, well, you can write down the answer. I don't know. I have trouble visualizing personally. So if you have trouble visualizing, then write it down and journal about what your child self would tell you. And look at the answer your child self has given you, right? What comes up after you see that answer? Do you still have resistance to implementing that answer? Do you have resistance to implementing the solution that your child self has given you? What is that resistance? Yes, but I can't do it because this and that and the other thing. Tell your child self those reasons why you can't do that solution, and see what your child self provides as a solution to those reasons that you have listed as to why you can't do that solution. So just keep asking your child self how they would solve this problem and that problem, and the problem to why you can't solve that problem. Just keep asking until you get to the first steps you can take. And the solution most times is pretty simple and obvious, and the solution would probably seem trivial to you, as in, what's the point of doing such a small thing? What's the point of acting on such a small difference in daily habits, right? What's the point of sleeping 1 hour earlier than I used to? What's the point of exercising for 20 minutes a day? What's the point of filming videos every week? What's the point of dribbling if I can't become a professional basketball player? So many. Our brain loves to come up with excuses, but if you say you can't, change that to you can. Because you can. You can. Just change I can't to I can. The I can statement really worked for me as a ritual I did for baseball. I sucked at baseball, right, as a kid. In general, I was athletically challenged as a kid, but I really enjoyed baseball during gym, and whenever it was my turn to bat, I would repeatedly say I can, while I was holding the bat in the ready position. And just saying I can as a ritual before hitting the ball somehow made me better at hitting the ball. Before saying I can, I wouldn't be able to hit a single ball with my bat. But once I started implementing I can while I'm waiting for the ball, the probability of me hitting the ball was so much higher. It was crazy. So So I remember that was a ritual I would do before before hitting the ball, and I would actually end up hitting the ball at least once during my round. Um, yeah, I would hit the ball at least once, and I would touch the ball like at least twice. Uh, so so it worked as a kid. I would see the effects of saying I can, and for some reason I forgot about that. And I think we all need to remember that it is that simple, that it is that obvious, and that we just have to change our mindset from I can't to I can. It's really that simple. But like our fears and anxieties and doubts are like clouding our judgment as adults, and we just overcomplicate things. So give that a try. Ask your child self what they would do in your situation. Ask your child self to give you the most simple and obvious solutions to your problems, and just just go for it. Just try, right? Just try and practice and enjoy what you're doing. If you can enjoy doing that thing, once you look back, you'll see that you've made a lot of progress and that you're actually good at it now after enjoying it for months and years. So ask your child self and enjoy the process. Enjoy playing basketball. If the solutions to our problems are simple, why can't they be easy? It's up to you to make it easy. It's up to you how difficult or easy a solution is. It's always simple, but it's up to you how easy or difficult you make it. So, make it easier for yourself. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out my other videos, and please consider subscribing to my channel. That would very much help me. um, you know, I would very much appreciate that. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of all the support that you do show me. So thank you for the support. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care. Bye.